You're here with the Montreal Marketeers. We're going to eat, we're going to talk about wine, and we're here with Donny, the founder of Ascoli Imports. Donny, let the audience know a bit about yourself, what you're all about, and what Ascoli is all about.
So my name is Donny Mellozzi, co-founder of Ascoli Wines and Spirits, a company we founded approximately about 4 years ago, my wife and I. And we're a small boutique wine agency representing different wineries in Italy to the Quebec marketplace. And we're having a blast doing it. So it's one of our projects we're working on today. And we're going to see where it's going to bring us in the next couple of years.
What does it mean to be a small boutique, I guess, wine agency?
Well,
what does that mean?
We don't really, we have approximately a product range of around 20 to 25 different products. Pretty much wines, Proseccos, sparkling wines, rosés, and whites, and throughout the region of Italy. So we're not bringing in, we don't have a wide spectrum of different products. We're not bringing in, from every single region at this point, but right now it's still in the infancy stage, and we have approximately 20-25 different products, various regions, various styles of wines, and different types of grape varietals. That's very interesting to the Quebec marketplace right now.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it.
So why start in wine? Well, was there a particular passion that you had?
It was a natural progression. It started off, growing up Italian in an Italian household. I was around, Vince, he knows this, around food all our lives, and the garden and different traditions, right? So it was just something. I mean, I've been making wine. I would have to say since end of college.
Okay.
I forget what age I was, but I was making wine with my grandmother a couple of years after my grandfather passed, and it was something I wanted to continue that tradition alive, right? So there I am, in Dawson, and September comes along, and I'm like, oh, you know what? No, I want to make a couple of demi-johns of wine. And I just decide to go buy a couple of cases of grapes, and I bring it into her garage. She had all the equipment, and there I go. And from there, I had already done research on wine. At that point, I was drinking a lot of wines from the SAQ, trying different Italian varietals, always towards Italian wines. I don't know what it was, but I just loved everything about them. And
I'm the same way. I don't blame you.
And then so I started making wine, and my grandmother was like, with the older techniques that my grandfather had, that he had basically throughout his life, which was making wine from Italy and then Montreal and bringing these traditions. I started tweaking some of these things, right? So, for example, destemming. My grandparents never really would destem the grapes. They would just crush them whole and then put them in a press, make them ferment with the actual vines. But what I started doing was, why don't we destem like a lot of the pros do, and get those, very earthy, grassy notes out of there, and just keep the skins in there for a long maceration. And I started, and she thought I was crazy because I was macerating the wine with the skins, fermenting them for like at least 3 weeks. I think my first wine I made, we did a 3-week fermentation with the skins with a 3 punch down daily routine that I had going, which extracted a lot of red fruit. So the wine that I made was this really black, dark, inky wine, which for them wasn't something that they were used to doing. My grandmother was like, what are you making here? It looks like tar. But in fact, it was actually one of the best wines I've ever made. It was like the first 2 vintages I ever produced. So that's where it all started. And then every year I just kept on making wine, just kept on building from there. And a couple of years ago, we've always had this company, and we decided to go into becoming a wine agency representing wines from Italy, and strictly Italian wines, because Italy has probably one of the most spontaneous varietals and number of varietals in all of the world. You're looking at around 18 to 2200 different grape varietals.
Wow. Okay.
Compared to other countries. So it just, the sky's the limit when it comes to Italian wines. Okay. I mean, everyone's bringing in Cabernet Sauvignon from California. Everyone's importing Tuscan wines. Everyone's importing different types of wines. But we're going out there to the Italian market, and we're like, look, we're doing things a little different. We want to bring in some monovarietals, some different old world varietals that are coming back into play right now, that they're replanting for the consumers, you know.
So you obviously, when it comes to wine, very big on details.
Absolutely.
Is this something that's just for a passion of wine, or you're just someone in general that's obsessed with details, like in business and all that?
I think on the business side, details is probably one of the most important things. You can't overlook it. It's, you know, in anything you do, I mean, growing up, I was always, you know, deeply involved with certain passions that I had, whether it's, you know, sports or cooking, or you just want to always be entrenched to make sure that you're doing the right things and learning. And I think the learning side of it will never stop in this business, because for me, again, my wife and I are representing wineries in Italy, but you know, there's a whole other side of it, which is the farming side. A wine bottle comes from someone's vision in the vineyard in Italy. So we're now tuning into that and trying to get involved with, you know, how are they making the wine? Why are they doing it like that? What are certain things that they're doing differently than other wineries? You know, and I'll give you an example. I was in Tuscany a couple of weeks ago at a business-to-business meeting, and I met a producer who's making a Prosecco style, like champagne style white wine, sparkling wine, but with a red Sangiovese grape. And the funny thing about this was I thought of this idea 8 years ago while sitting, you know, in my house. I'm like, I bet you can make a white champagne out of a red Sangiovese grape, and he's already been doing it. You know, so these are the little details and twerks that I'm trying to, you know, my wife and I look at when we're trying to bring in a new product into the Montreal market.
Okay.
You know, the wine was fantastic. So
And how do you go about? You just touched on it slightly. This is what you look for, but how do you go about choosing? There's so many options. So how do you go about choosing a supplier and making that, I guess, menu that you have?
We're very selective. We're very selective in who we want to work with. We're not going out there and trying to find these big, massive producers, you know, that are into you know, quantity versus quality. We're really trying to look at who is making a fantastic product at a good price for our consumer in Montreal and in Quebec. Because, you know, the fact is that the market is saturated with a lot of wines. But if we can bring something different, you know, to the ball game, and something different to the Montreal Quebec market, you know, it's sometimes it might not take. You know, I can't stand here in front of you and say every idea is going to work out. And throughout our progression that we've been doing throughout the years, there's been a couple of products that we had to let go. You know, but most of them have worked.
Okay.
Most of them have worked. So I think we're on the right path with who are we choosing in regards of producers, what we're looking for. You know, what kind of business model do they have? Are they passionate about the product? Because sometimes, you know, you can go meet somebody and you're sitting there and the wine's good, but you're not getting a good vibe from the person itself because of whatever reason. I really want to get involved with how they run their family business, because at the end of the day, it's a family business for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
So you talk a lot about job versus passion.
You know, everyone has to make a little cut in this business, but it's good to do it with someone who shares the same passions as you do, and you can combine your visions together and move forward. You know, that's, I think, some of the things we're looking for. Obviously, there's other details like you mentioned. You know, are you involved in the details? We're as far as the marketing point of it, absolutely we're involved in the details. I mean, even buying a bottle and selling a bottle, labeling's a huge factor.
Glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
When it comes to brand building, it's absolutely, it's fundamental. So I'm always looking at labels. My wife's always looking at labels. We've just picked up a new product in Tuscany, which is, I think, going to sell. I'm hoping it's going to sell well in Montreal, because, you know, the thing is, you can go and you can get all these old style wines. I mean, let's face it, Italian wine is old style, but we were able to find a producer that's making wine in a bit more of a you like the Parmigiano?
Oh,
you like it? Did you try so this is all from last year. This is just.
I was gonna say, just to clarify, so everyone's watching.
There's food everywhere here. So
your wine is not only its food.
Well,
food is your art.
Yeah, I mean, you know, how can I put this? Yeah, I love wines and I love Italian, you know, farming and growing vegetables, but cooking is something I've been doing since a young child. So for me, it's important not only for guests but also for my family, and we're always around food, and I grew up with it. My dad he's been a butcher now for well over 45 years. I've learned a lot, you know, from him and the traditions, and he's a fantastic chef. So is my mom, and my in-laws are fantastic chefs as well. So everywhere I go, we're always around good food, you know, and it's hard not to. It's always in your face, but it's very important. This is how I was taught. You know, people come to the house,
Always
And
have something.
You always have to have something. And while you're in Italy, people that travel in Italy, you see it, right? I mean, there's food everywhere, and wine's meant to be eaten. Like, it's supposed to be shared with food. It's not like a California wine, for example. And I made this point while I was there in Florence. We were at the Casa of Chianti, which is like a museum / like education center for Chianti wines. And the person that was giving us the tour was actually the buyer of the Bastianich group. So Liddy and Joe Bastianich.
Yeah.
Okay, for Italy. He was there, and he's from Texas, and he was talking. And I made a point to tell people that we were around maybe 40 people from around the world, basically wine agents. And I said, Tuscan wines are meant to be consumed with food, especially Tuscan food. Okay, because the wines are very elegant. They're a bit lighter. The Sangiovese is not overpowering. It can be a little acidic at times, but it works well with some sopressata. It'll work well with certain meats, game dishes, and pastas, which is their cuisine is basically based on that.
Yeah.
So it's not something you'll sit by yourself like a Cabernet from California, which is like a black wine full of fruit, right? That'll overpower a pasta dish. So I think a lot of people appreciated that comment, and I think the Italians that were there appreciated it because they kind of like, yeah, he got it. I got that look of he's probably the only one that understands it. Maybe because of how I was raised, or the culture, but it's got to go with the food that they serve in that region.
So when you're bringing in new varietals and all that, and I'm assuming you sell to restaurants.
My wife, her client base is, I would probably say 85% restaurants.
So what is the education part of that? Of saying like, this is the wine, you should pair it with this, or even reversely, what do you serve at your restaurant? I have these wines that would work with that.
She does a lot of research on the menu. So let's see, what kind of restaurant is it? Is it northern style, central, southern style Italian food? What are they cooking a lot of? What's their dish or their go-to that they like going to? Is it also buco? Is it pasta? So if it's pasta, then I don't think a Californian Cabernet might work for that. So it's something we might not bring out. But like I said, we'll try to push something more from Tuscany or southern Italy or central Italy that could be a bit more on the medium side that'll adapt well with the food that they're making.
Okay.
Ultimately, though, it's subjective like anything else, guys. Right? You might like the Honda Civic, but Vince might like the Toyota 4Runner. Like I don't know.
Or the Tesla.
I know. I saw you tried the Tesla lately.
I did. Phenomenal.
Nice car. I wanted to ask you about that actually because
phenomenal experience.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
It's a beautiful car, but just to go back to wine, it's very subjective.
Yeah.
So you got to educate the person on the vineyard and on the grape, and this has been around for thousands of years. But then back in the 1900s, they stopped growing it and they wiped out all the grapes, and now they started replanting it back in early 2000, and people want to know about that story. So I think if the product tastes well, which I'll make you try now, is a good segue into making you try something that's unique to our market, which is a Bianchello from Crispia. It's a Bianchello di Mataro. It's a white wine, 2014. We're probably the only ones in Quebec bringing this grape in. It's a special grape that's only grown in Le Marche region. That's where my father's from. It's from Fano, I believe, and it's a fantastic wine, very crisp.
So before we start, how are you supposed to prepare, a white wine? To what temperature? I've heard you can drink it warm, cold. I've heard different variations in terms of preferences. How are you supposed to?
Well, if it's a white wine, I mean, you don't want it to be like ice cold, right? You don't want it to be way too cold because
you're just hiding the flavor.
You're going to be hiding a lot of the flavors that the wine has. You want to try to taste, I guess, what this bouquet has and the smell. So when you're tasting wine, like, it's very important that you're looking at. I like looking at the color first of all because that's the first thing I notice. I mean, you eat with your eyes, you drink with your eyes first, and a lot of people might disagree with that, but I'm really big on that because again, I make my own wine, so I'm looking for something when I want to make a home wine. The wine I make is for family consumption. It's like my reserve for family members to keep that tradition going. But it also helps me when I'm looking for new products, right? Yeah. Because I don't like making a wine that's too golden or too yellow, too maybe on the orangey side. You're going to notice that this wine is I wouldn't say too very pale, but it's probably in between like a Sauvignon Blanc and maybe a Chardonnay, somewhere in between. It's there's no oak in this wine. whatsoever. Okay. So it's aged in stainless steel, which I like with white wines because for me, I'm going after the fruity aspect of it. I don't like drinking wines that are like heavily oaked. It's not my style of.
You don't want anything influencing the actual grape.
It's too much. I like grapes in its purest form, right? Yeah. So. Mono varietals are the type of wines that I like producing, So when I produce wines, we have access in Montreal. We get our grapes from California. I'm making like Sauvignon Blanc. I mean, for me, it's I love that grape, and it's one of the best ones we can get in Montreal. But then there's some people that are that are like, oh, I love my Chardonnays. It's a lot of oak and all that. Personally, our palate, my wife and I, we really enjoy mono varietals, which keep the intense fruitiness and character of the grape itself without masking anything.
Okay.
So with that said, if you guys want to try this.
Yes, please.
Vince, you're busy filming over here.
Sliding.
Oh, God.
So how are you supposed to...
So, I mean, again, again, you guys are drinking something very unique, okay? So this is new to the Quebec market. A grape that was more or less extinct and only being grown in that area of Italy. So in Les Marques region, yeah. They're really known in Les Marques. They're known for their whites and their reds. I mean, they have the Verdicchio, which is a grape that they've been growing for a very long time, which is one of their staples. But this is something that's truly unique.
Yeah, but Verdicchio by itself is a very good grape.
It's a very good grape. But so with this one,
so this one is called what again?
This is called the Bianchello di Matauro. Okay, this one here. I mean, if you smell it.
So before you say it, Vince, what are you smelling?
I know, I knew you were going to ask me that. Honestly, the first when I stuck my nose in right away, I smelled like a bit of apple for some reason.
There is some apple here.
There is?
Absolutely, yeah.
Me, I'm so
impressed. It was so good.
Oh man.
Apple orchard, a little maybe like when you like some apple juice, a bit like the cider side of it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Matt, what do you smell, Matt? Oh,
I can't smell. I smoke. So
oh my God! What an excuse. We banter, by the way. This is
I know.
The normal thing.
I can tell.
I can tell.
Yeah. So there's no real. There's a lot of like. I'm not the best sommelier in the world, and I don't pretend to be, but I know when I like a wine.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I like obviously I like looking at it, the fruitiness, and just the smell. I want to smell like citrus and fruit and just keep it as natural as possible. I don't want to smell oak and
this one really cuts through. Like you really get it really fast.
This is what you want to like. This goes well with the sopressata, which is what they'll eat. They'll have salami there and capicola and all that, and that'll cut through the fat. So if you pair it together, you'll notice.
Oh, it's very intense to start off with.
You see the pepper? So this pairing, this pepper, this sopressata, which is there's garlic and pepper. In that region they use a lot of black pepper in their salamis. This wine actually works well.
Yeah.
And you can see the chunks of fat that's in there. That's how basically it's the balance, right, between the fattiness and the crispness of the wine. This cuts through it. But this with fried cod and fried bacala, fantastic. I love fried bacala, especially Friday nights. This goes down really, really well. So, it's and it goes well with ravioli, nice light pastas.
So you obviously you know all this probably before you actually decided, let's do this whole wine thing. And this clearly the passion for food and for wine all comes together even before that. So the one question I really have is, if you're so reliant on restaurants, if it's a big part of your business, how do you kind of see it as in, I can convince the restaurant, but how do I convince the client?
Well, that's through education with the staff at the restaurants, right?
Okay.
So, and with the owners of the restaurants, you want to be talking to them, you want to be pushing your products and saying, hey, this is what I have. And my wife has a lot of different ways to work with the restaurant in regards to, maybe offering promotions on products, depending on if they have a seasonal menu, what wine will go well, or a new product that we receive in, talking with the waiters and waitresses saying, hey, did you try this wine? What do you like? And the fact is if a waiter and waitress likes the wine, they tend to push it, and that's a good mark of a good restaurant, is that they're truthful, they're honest with the customer. And there's a lot of good wines out there in the market, and I'm not saying that our company has the best wines. I mean, there's no such thing, right? It's all subjective. We offer, I think, it's an offering of our palate of what we like to the consumer. You know, it's not necessarily low budget wines or super high quality, but it's somewhere in between where, you know, it's local producers, artisanal products that are new to the, you know, to our province and marketplace that's of high quality, you know. So
how if someone says, look, Donny, I want to start getting into wine, what would you recommend for them to start off with? Whether it's taste, smell, to kind of get a palate
getting into wine in what sense?
Yeah,
as a consumer or as a...
No, as I guess an above average consumer, in the sense of knowing what you're tasting or enjoying what you're tasting, and then smelling it as well, in terms of being aware that this is light, this is strong, this is a bit of an apple flavor.
Or even for his question, do you think it actually matters?
Or does it even matter?
Because to me, the one thing that you said was very important. It's like, well, I'm not a sommelier, I don't smell it, it's not like a biggest forte, but I know what I like. Like, what do you think actually matters for someone who wants to get into wine? Because I feel a lot of people, to your point, are scared because it's like kind of the snob environment.
There is a little bit of a snob environment, you know. And, for me, it's very simple. It's whatever the consumer likes, whatever they're comfortable buying, and whatever's good value as well. I mean, I'm no different than anyone else. When I look for wine, I want to make sure that it's something that I can buy and I don't have to break the bank account to buy a bottle of wine. And we understand that. So that's, again, that's why we're looking at certain product ranges, right? And a lot of it is educating the winemakers in Italy about our market, because the SAQ controls 100% of the business here, and they need to understand that if they want to move their wines in an international market like Quebec, then they have to be price competitive. So it's very, very important that we educate them on how the process works here in Quebec, and to tell them about some of the competition that's around. That it's not only going to be, for example, there's not only 10 Sangiovese on the shelf or 10 Montepulcianos. There are literally hundreds of different products out there, especially Italian wines, because of the fact that Italian wines represent a huge market segment of Quebec sales from SAQ, along with French and other. I
guess American to a certain degree, but not compared to French.
People, I think in Quebec, I think that there's old world wines are still reigning supreme. Yeah. You know, but I also believe that Chile's coming in strong. You see it, Argentina, you know, other countries, South Africa. Although I see the Australian wines just slowly tapering off the past couple of years. I've seen this, that you actually remove shelf space from their products. But I mean, Old World is still very, very popular right now. So
you brought up price point, which obviously a lot of the experience I get when I go to restaurants with other people that are not used to how I am.
Yeah.
I look for the menu. I said, what have I never tried before?
Exactly.
And that's how I work. A lot of people look at the menu and say, what have I tried before?
But that's not only wine, that's food.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, anything.
So it's a whole experience of, to me, like, you bring up price point. So the restaurant obviously plays a big role.
Absolutely.
But to me, it's the hard part is I find myself unique or somewhat unique in the fact that I just never want to try the same bottle of wine again.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
If you find a new product, something you never
That's what
had,
excites me. Yeah.
It excites you. And that's basically what our whole premise is with this business, right? It's an adventure that's fun, and we're basically drinking through the country of Italy, from north to south. So it's finding those varietals that are, hey, this is something that's fantastic, it's new, and potentially it might not, you know, sell well, but it's a risk we're taking, right? It's a calculated business risk that we're assessing up front, and we're going to say, hey, listen, this is something that's new. Now, having said that, you know, my method to the madness, and my wife sees it a lot with me, is I'm really looking at what's popular out there in the world. And I remember 10 years ago, even 12 years ago, Prosecco just took control of the whole, you know, international market. Yeah. Everyone's drinking Prosecco. Everyone is still drinking Prosecco now. I mean, Champagne was extremely popular. It's still very popular, but all of a sudden, Prosecco, I mean, and the Italians are masters of marketing. Yeah. That's one thing they do well, is besides their products and agriculture and all that, they're masters of marketing. And they were pushing Prosecco very, very strong in the early 2000s, late, it's around 1995, 96, Prosecco was coming on strong. And to this day, it's still doing well. So looking at that fad and being ready, well, we got to carry a Prosecco. So that's another way of making sure that we're in tune with what the market wants. Another example of that is rosés. Rosés were like you know, you couldn't get rosés if your life depended on it at certain restaurants maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You know, it wasn't seen as being a popular wine or something that you'd see on the menu. But you know, there's been a tremendous amount of growth for the past 3 years on rosés. Everyone's drinking rosés. You know, New York City, all these bars and restaurants that, you know, have open terraces in the summer starting in April because the weather's so different there. People are drinking rosés. They love their rosés. So we brought in a rosé, actually from Biaggi, which is this producer. I'm going to make you try the Sangiovese now from Le Marche, which is basically the big brother of the Crispaia. This is the Crispaia Nerignolo, which is the Sangiovese from Le Marche, which is a medium-bodied red wine. But Biaggi from Abruzzo, which is that's where my mom's from. This wine here, they actually have a Ceresolo, which is a rosé. Montepulciano, which we're bringing in, which is doing very, very well. When it's really hot outside, you chill it nice and cold. It just goes down really, really nice. You know, it's a well-balanced wine.
So what do you think of wines that are actually a mix of red and white?
I don't see that often. I mean, I don't think Italians really. I mean, back in the day, you know, the Chianti region, they would practice that a long time ago, but you don't really see that as much for international consumers.
So as a business, if you would see a trend coming up in that,
I mean,
how early would you actually think about like importing it?
You know, I mean, I don't know if it's something that's doing well and people are asking for it. Then absolutely, we're going to listen. You know, we're going to see if we can find one. Like Australia was making them. They were doing a wine which was in I believe the Rhone style. I think which was they were putting in Viognier with some Grenache and some other red grapes, you know, but like 10%, just to, you know, to give it some extra kick or, but I mean, the wine was still deep garnet red. It was almost black, but I don't see it. It's not what we're looking for. So, you know, that's just my opinion, but I mean, it doesn't mean that, hey, maybe one day we're not going to bring that in.
So in general, do you see it as in, I have to innovate in the sense of first mover, or no, I want to see how the market gets, and then when I see the opportunity for myself to make a mark?
I think it's a bit of both. I think some of it's driven by passion. So I'm like, oh, I love it, like a Lambrusco. I want to bring one in because I really like it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell people, you know, because one thing I can sit with you and I can say, you're gonna love this wine. I'm gonna make you try it, and my passion will be able to sell you to a certain point. After that, your taste buds are going to take control, right? So you're going to be able to tell me, you know what? Yeah, it's interesting, but I've had it before. So it's a bit of both. But then at the same time, the market will dictate, hey, you know, there's a big, you know, people want Prosecco, or people want Francacciortas, or people want rosés or blush wines, whatever it is, you know. So you got to be in tune with what's happening. And how do you do that?
Has the contrary ever happened, where something on a business sense made so much sense and it was like, yeah, it's really going to work?
We're working.
But then you tried it and you're like,
Well, we're actually going to be, we're going into a different side of the business soon.
Okay.
There's something that I've always been interested in, and my wife Nadia really wants to. We're partnering with someone in Tuscany. We're actually going to be doing private labeling.
Nice.
So it's best of both worlds. Right now we're in the conception stage. We're just putting things together. But we have the wine ready. It's just a matter of having the label prepared, the marketing side of it, and then we're going to be importing.
Do you have a label design in mind?
We're working on one.
Okay.
We're working on one. So we're trying to import wines and, you know, promote wines that are meant to be drunk at a young, not to be aged, not to be cellared for 30 years, although you can in some cases, like the Sangiovese or the Montepulciano can go easily 10 years, but it's for the young consumers, right? People want to try new products, and they don't want to buy their old, Beaujolais or not to put Beaujolais down, but, you know, some of this typical older style wines or old world wines that have been around for a long, long time, which are still very good depending on the taste. But, you know, I'm trying to find something in between.
Well, I have one Brunello that I left in my wine fridge, and like 5-6 years it'll be ready and I'll drink it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of impatience, I think.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of young consumers,
absolutely,
they look at it as like, well, I know if I spend $300 and I can try it, or $400 that it's rightful age.
Absolutely.
I know if I like it or not.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I'm not going to spend that much money on a bottle of wine.
No.
It's kind of a gamble, because I'm waiting 6 years. What if I don't end up liking that?
I agree. I agree. And I have a couple of buddies of mine that actually are very good at that. They're actually They have a nice cellar. They've put their wines aside and like, oh, I'm going to open that here, or on my daughter's 5th birthday.
Yeah.
So you know that you have that, and I'm like that to a certain point, but I'm not really a huge wine collector per se. I love wines. I'm more of a
wine drinker,
wine conceptual type of. I like the farming side of it. That's where I think my roots are. You know, learning from different winemakers or different producers what they're able to do with grapes.
So now we talked about wine a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a long-term goal for you in terms of food? In terms of, I know you make your own sopressata.
There's a lot. I mean, you know, I how can I put this?
Like, do you find your business is focused on wine, or not even? It's just a passion for Italy, and
the business is definitely focused on wine.
Okay.
You know, wine is one of the aspects probably right now at 100%, where my wife's really working hard on growing the business steadily, and it has year over year. But you know, I'm also not a person that stays very sedentary at the same time. You know, so for me, long-term goals, potentially food is something, you know, because it's something that I love interacting with people. You know, I like discussing certain styles of foods or different traditions that, you know, the old world palate, which is unfortunately today almost lost. But when you grow up, I guess, son of a butcher who's been, you know, it's a noble job that my father's been doing it for well over 40 years. It's hard not to lose sight of that, because people are going back, you know, and I see it. A lot of people are not cooking anymore. You know, big portion of my father's business right now is making prepared foods for the consumer. So he'll get a call from a certain person, hey, you know, Frank, I have my son's communion, or I'm having a Super Bowl party, or whatever it is, whatever the feast is, Easter, Christmas. Can you prepare me a veal roast for 20 people, whatever it is, and my dad will prepare it and then pre-bake it, or whatever the customer wants. So catering to a certain point for the consumer is what his business is growing, is because people don't have time to cook anymore. You know, so that's one of the things. Maybe one day we'll see what's going to happen with that side. I'll never close, you know, any doors to opportunities or any ideas. That's for sure. But definitely, food is a huge part of, you know, of I guess of my tradition, at least as a person. It's very important. So
for let's to go back on the wine side.
Yeah.
Do you use any specific strategies to go over? Let's say there's restaurant X that I really want to go after, because I think it'll build a lot more visibility to my brand, or to the wines I'm trying to bring in.
Yes.
Like, how does it work on that aspect? Because you talked about discounts or rebates.
You know, right now we've been working the marketplace on a regional side, so we're focusing on certain areas of Montreal, whether it's Little Italy, you know, the South Shore, North Shore, and we're slowly breaking into the restaurants that way.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, you can't just. I mean, it's nice to do like a guerrilla marketing approach. You're just going to go everywhere, but it's also important to make sure that you're in certain spots where there's certain restaurants. You know. Like, for example, one area that we're really trying to focus on right now is near Atwater, which is the Griffintown area, right? So there's a lot of nice restaurants that are opening there. So, you know, I think my wife has a lot of you know, opportunities and appointments with certain restaurant owners there. So it depends. I mean, obviously they're looking at pricing. They're looking at, you know, what can you do for me? Why should I buy your wine if it's good? But let me tell you, when a wine does take off, then they're constantly asking for more orders. They want more, right? Okay. So it really depends. There's no how can I put this, special recipe when it comes down to selling something that's very subjective. You know? And
do you find the fact that, well, I consider Montreal a pretty foodie scene.
Absolutely.
Do you find that helps? Like, do you think that people are listening to you more?
I think it does help. I think there's a very promising Montreal food scene. I wouldn't say it's New York City.
Okay.
But at the same time,
thank you, by the way.
No problem. At the same time, it does help having consumers out there, you know, that go to restaurants, know their products, and in Montreal, people like their wine. Let's face it. I mean, wine is absolutely booming with the SAQ, and a lot of people know what they want. And there's a lot of people like you and myself that, you know, or Vince, we want certain products from our ancestors, or wherever someone was born, or I want to try this or something else.
Well, Vince wants everything free.
Vince is a little
everything.
Duro di tasca, maybe.
Yeah.
Duro di tasca.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, it's funny because we went to the LCBO the other day.
Yeah.
And it's a big difference walking into SAQ and walking the LCBO in terms of experience, but in terms of knowledge.
It wasn't the biggest LCBO.
It wasn't the biggest, but at the SAQ, I find has really taken wine to the next level in terms of servicing the client who doesn't exactly know what they want.
They're very nice at the SAQ. Yeah. I gotta say they're informative. They know what customers like and what's popular.
Do you find it helps you? Because obviously you're not selling. Well, you have to pass through the SAQ one way or another.
Yeah, we're not selling to them. Our products are not in any SAQ stores at this point.
Yeah.
So we are working on getting in there. But once one product does get in there, then the onus becomes on the agency to promote their products within that store.
But do you still feel that even though you're not pushing your products through SAQ right now, the effort they're doing in terms of marketing or in terms of general education is helping you out?
Absolutely. They're fantastic with their clients. They know, they're always asking the right questions. What are you eating tonight? What kind of party is it? Do you want something new world, old world? So they have the right questions. Some of the SAQs I go to, I speak to certain people, and they're really well versed in wine knowledge and what to do. So, I think they're all different, right? I mean, no matter, you probably go to your favorite SAQ. Everyone has their own favorite SAQ.
I have like 6 of them.
Yeah, 6 of them. So you know the people you like going to there. But it definitely is a big selling point, right? Because if you're passionate about something, they see that from you, and then they're passionate about it, they're going to be able to promote that wine a lot more than something else. So, unfortunately, that's how the business is, right? Everyone wants something better, and everyone wants something cheaper, which is very hard to do in this industry because it's farming at the end of the day, and it costs a lot of money to make wine. So we have to remember that the farmers have to have their cut as well. They have to earn their living, right? So it's got to pass through various different steps before it hits the consumer's shelf.
So for yourself on the education part, if you show that it's something relatively unique, obviously wine is wine, a grape is a grape. There's different flavor profiles, but if you're able to show that it's very unique, that plays a big role in the price you can put out, right?
It does. It could also be the reverse. It could also play a big role in how low I can price it. Because it's such the unknown, maybe the consumer won't want to pay, a reserve label or a high-end $30 bottle, right? So, for example, I believe this one here right now, the Bianchella di Mattauro, we're at approximately $18.
Okay.
Which is a fantastic price, and Nadia doesn't understand how we're able to get a really good deal on this wine. It's fantastic for the consumer. Because it's something that we're really pushing with our customers, and I find it's a very good selling point. So we're looking at, our agency, we're looking at $18 to $25. That's where our sweet spot is, right?
Okay.
So we try to be within a certain dollar amount, but it doesn't really mean much at the end because ultimately it's the consumer that's going to decide whether you're going to want to buy it or not.
Yeah.
Whether they like it. So that leads me to this wine, which is the Nerighiolo, which is the 100% Sangiovese from the Marche. And it's a 14% alcohol wine, so this is
substance wine.
Yeah, it's got some substance. Now, the interesting thing about this, again, which is what I mentioned before, was there's absolutely no oak in this wine.
So this is stainless steel.
Stainless steel. So if you give it a whirl, I mean, what do you get right away in regards to your nose?
I don't know.
I can tell you.
I smell strength. That's right. I smell power.
Yeah. You know what? But there's one fruit that I smell every time I drink Sangiovese, and it's very predominant. Cherries.
Cherries?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to embarrass myself. I have a very bad.
I don't mind making mistakes.
Yeah, you always make mistakes.
For me, it's fine. Exactly. But for you, oh man.
I know.
That's very good.
I love this wine.
Oh wow! What's that taste you get at?
Okay. I find there's a lingering flavor profile with this wine. It's not. It's heavy. It's a heavier wine.
But it doesn't linger on like an alcohol. Like kind of when a wine turns at the end when it's strong.
No. It's like absolutely. This is actually one of our better sellers. Nadia does really well with this wine. It's just something that can be paired with. I mean, I can have a steak with this.
Yeah,
it'll stand up to like a bistecca or a very hearty pasta dish. It won't overpower the pasta dish, but it's enough. It's in that. I find it's in between a huge power wine and something that can still be paired with pasta.
So for you, when you're selling this wine, for instance, it's not a native grape.
It's not Sangiovese is really native to Tuscany.
Yeah.
But in the market, they've been cultivating Sangiovese for a very long time, and they do it in their own style. And
so that's the thing. So is this an easier sell for you, or a harder sell than something that's completely native?
You know what? I think for us this is pretty much an easier sell because everyone knows Sangiovese.
Exactly.
But Le Marche has been growing Sangiovese for a very long time. They do a really good job with it. There's a lot of very good producers from Le Marche that are making fantastic, easy drinking wines for the market today to be drank, between 5 to 8 years, and that are of high value wines. So for me, I think it's an easier sell, especially the Nebbiolo. This wine here is just a fantastic product offering that we can offer. So.
And this is this like a door opener to you, for the sense of when
you
have a restaurant, so like get this. Oh, this is selling very well. What else do you have?
Absolutely, it is a door. This is one of the first wines we started with. Crispai, they're a very small boutique winery. In fact, I'm going to go meet them this year in Vineyards for the first time. So it's going to be great to meet with the winemaker.
So how did you reach out to them the first time? Like,
how
does that go down?
I mean, it's like anything else, right? You want to make contacts out there, and you're gonna, I wouldn't say as far as cold calling, but you're reaching out to them saying, hey, do you have any presence in the Quebec market, and are you interested? And they're like, we're either working with somebody or no, we want to get in.
Okay.
So once that's open, the door's open, then we're there.
Okay.
We're ready to go. Then we work on, we request samples, they ship us samples, we try it. If we like the product, great. If not, then we might move on. But that's typically how we work.
Okay.
And then we definitely want to plan visits to go to Italy, visit them, visit the family, the winemakers, and all that, and try to bring the relationship to the next level.
And you speak Italian?
Yes, I do.
Is it? I'm assuming it helps a lot to actually.
It does help a lot, especially when I'm talking stuff that I'm really passionate about. Like I can transcend well with them, and for me, it's when I was in Italy, I'm only speaking Italian to our clients there, our producers. So, absolutely. But I mean, so what do you think about this wine?
It's
very
fantastic.
Good. Yeah,
it's a nice wine.
I'm still trying to figure out how it.
The end, yeah.
The ending is just bugging me. Not that it's fantastic, but it's bugging me that it just. What is it?
I love this wine, and this is one of those things where it's not a pretentious wine, right? And I have to say, I love the labeling. Okay, typically Sangiovese is not really put in this type of bottle.
No,
it's more put in this style. But I find the advertising aspect, the brand aspect of Crispai, that's the name of the wine, so Crispai, it's really nicely presented. And when you have two bottles side by side, you can have a nice restaurant and you want to promote this, you line them all up on a pallet or something, or on top of a counter. The customers are like, what is that? Like, why is that C on that bottle? What does it mean? Pick it up. Hey, I want to try this. Where can I get it? So again, that has a lot to do with branding, right? And how the bottle is going to sell.
So do you impact the labeling at all, or it's already done and you?
We definitely impact the label. Labeling is very important. If we don't like the label, we will request the winemaker to see if they can change it for us. The SAQ has strict guidelines to what can be imported into Quebec. Okay. Certain labeling, there has to be mention of sulfites and alcohol content and certain different things. So if the wine does come in and it doesn't meet the standards of the SAQ, it will not be released. So it's very important that everything is actually taken care of ahead of time.
So when you say not release, can you actually reprint your own label, stick it on top?
Yeah, there's modifications that could be done, and sometimes you've gone to the SAQ and you've seen labels put on behind bottles because it was only done in English or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's certain quotas that we got to meet, but there's ways around it so far. So, but eventually, hopefully, we will be getting into the private labeling game. That's one of the next steps to get to.
Is Montreal at that level where, because I've heard a few people say this, where they'll choose the restaurant based on the wine selection, or that they have their favorite wine that they've never had access to. So that's why it's so important for certain restaurants. They keep their relationships with these small boutique agents and so forth to kind of keep on getting access to specific wines.
I agree. That's definitely the case. We have a couple of restaurants in the West Island that are really, they have to have our products on their shelf at all time because they have regulars that are going in just to have that wine. Wow. And to have their Friday night meal or to have their Saturday night meal. So I think in Montreal there is that type of environment where people are going to want to have that product all the time. It might not be the same, let's say, in certain areas in the United States.
Yeah.
Because of, I guess, the volume that they have and that. But in Montreal, I know that with speaking with Nadia, it's like she's she'll tell me they've got customers going in just to try this, for example, just to have this. So it's a huge part of the business.
As a restaurant, I'm guilty of this all the time. I'm sure you are too. When you go to a restaurant, you look at the wine, you look at the price. First thing you go SAQ.com, like what are these guys charging me over here? Is that a selling point for you too? Like that to a restaurant, like, well, you guys, it's private import, they'll never see the price. They don't know.
It is absolutely. I mean, you have to understand, you're getting things that are not available.
Yeah.
And you're getting Bianchillo di Mataro, you're getting the Sangiovese in 100% stainless steel from the market, small producers, boutique wineries, different. There's different. You're getting wines that are not mass produced. So a winery could be only making 100,000 bottles a year or 25,000 bottles a year. It's not the same as getting the cheap $13 bottle at the SAQ that they're making thousands and 250,000 bottles a year, right?
Yeah.
So you have to put an emphasis on quality as well, and farming is very manual, very labor intensive, right? It's like olive oil, for example. Okay, and that's another side of the business that Natty's actually going to be going into as well, because we're always trying to find a little product here or there, that some oils we can bring to our customers' restaurants. We're always asking for it, but if you look at an olive oil, you can go to Costco and pick up a bottle of olive oil. I'm not going to name a name brand, but you can pay it $6 for a liter. Well, unfortunately, you're not getting real olive oil for $6 a liter. If it costs the winemaker, because a lot of wineries in Italy make olive oil. If it costs them 10 euros just to pick the olives, how can they sell you that bottle for six Canadian dollars? So there's a big misconception in the industry, right? And it's very important that you want to try to, I guess, feed yourself with high quality product. I mean, you're going to put the best synthetic oil in your car, but yet you're going to go buy the cheapest olive oil to put in your body. To me, it makes absolutely no sense, right? I'm not saying you got to go spend $50 a bottle of oil, but there are good products out there that are properly labeled from the government, DOCGs, and they're stamped. That hey, this is something that's of good quality.
Which country would be the best olive oil? If you had to put, like,
you're talking to me like I'm going to tell you like. I'm going to tell you what I like, and I like Italian oil. I mean, I like Italian.
Now, to touch back on the wine part and not being able to scan, what Matt didn't tell you is that we placed an order for 7 cases.
Of 7 half dozen
cases from Italy. Different a company called. Now I'll mention.
Not selling the company.
I don't like them. That's
not
why.
in the company.
Okay, I won't name the company. I don't like them, but. Okay. Anyways, I didn't like the service that I got out of this experience.
It was basically a wine club that were also private importers.
Yes, and
everybody joins into this club, and then they have a selection of 100 wines every month.
And this is through Quebec. This is through wine agencies in Quebec.
Very big wine agency in Quebec that they have.
Ontario. It's not Canada.
Canada, and they have let's say 100 master sommeliers, they call them, who select the wine every month, and every month it changes. So it changes by region. So
and then they deliver this to you.
They deliver it through the SAQ.
Through the SAQ, so you go pick it up at the SAQ.
Exactly. So the pricing wasn't too bad. It was roughly $16 to $25 a bottle, depending what you chose. The process to get this wine, it took me. I still didn't get the last 6 bottles. They made a mistake.
Yeah, 8 months.
8 months. And I started getting the first case 5 months after my order.
So. The lead time when it comes to by the time if you want a little bit,
I'm curious if someone wants to.
Our logistics, right? Our logistics is very simple. We place an order through the SAQ that sends it to the winery in Italy, and the SAQ takes care of everything else. Within approximately 2 to 3 months, we get our wine. So that's that's the lead time of it. So we have to make sure that we're constantly having inventory.
So they probably drank it at the SAQ.
That's
what you're telling me.
I don't know, but I've so first I've heard of I guess wine agencies or having. I mean, wine clubs are popular in the U.S. In California especially, but they operate very differently there. In California, you can do whatever you want pretty much. It's not it's privatized. So if you want to sell wine to and have different clubs, it's great. But I don't know. For me, we're not there.
Well, it's funny because now I was mentioning the scanning, right? Scanning at the restaurant. But I will say, and anyone who's listening to this that's friends with us, that's been at either probably my place or Matt's place, I love it when I take out one of those bottles of wine and someone's scanning
Yeah.
and they can't get it. Then they try to look online and
Yeah.
it's sort of hard to find in
You
Google
can't find
because
it.
it's so remote. It's the best feeling I've ever had.
Yeah, it's something that
I think you brought it up too in the private label part of it.
yeah, it is.
Where a lot of halls I know will bring a private
A
label.
lot of halls will have private labels.
Just because they don't want people to know.
They don't want people to know, absolutely. And that's what, we're working on private labels, not necessarily for that, but our private label, I think, is going to be a very, very good private label. I think it's going to be something new to the market and something that's going to be really like, wow, look at this label. Something a little bit crazy. Because that's what I think, I really, when I look at something, I'm like, okay, what is this? Tell me about it. I want to know the type of grapes, something a blend, a weird type of blend. So we're going to see. But this one here, this is a partner that we're working with right now. They're called Biagi di from Abruzzo. It's where my mom's from. This is I call this the big gun, because this guy is one of my favorite wines that my wife has in her portfolio, and it's 100% Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, aged 6 months in oak. Okay, so this is one of my favorite wines. It was one of the first wines we brought in. I'm very, very impartial to this wine. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and we were able to meet with the producers Luca Biagi and Renato, one of his partners, in Florence a couple of weeks ago. We had dinner with them, and it was just nice to put a face to a name, get to meet them, and it was I think it's a start of a great collaboration with them, and we're very excited to work with them. So,
and is this typically a wine that people would age or not necessarily?
This is ageable, absolutely. This wine here, you can easily go, 10 years, but it doesn't mean it's not drinkable now. Again, this is a 2012, so it's already
done some aging.
It's already done some aging. The previous vintage was a 2010 that we were carrying. So think about it, an 8-year-old wine.
Yeah.
So it's done its time in bottles, which is nice. So, and I just love the packaging, retro. It's their mid-tier Montepulciano. So it's not their entry level, and it's not their higher end. Their higher end is something we're going to be working on. But right now, this is one of the most reasonable wines that we carry in regards to price point and value and taste. So try this one. Tell me what you think.
So how are you supposed to smell, sip later?
Smelling. Obviously, I like the color, right? So for me, it's like, oh wow, I like the winemaker. I like what he did. He macerated the grapes maybe 12 days, maybe 15 days. I don't know. He tried to extract as much color as possible without being too harsh or too astringent, right? So I always look at the legs, and I smell. I want to smell different types of like fruit and floral notes, right? That's what I'm looking for. There's nothing bad with this wine. Like, there's no bad off smell with this wine.
How do you? I mean, always at the restaurant, right? They have you sip it for how? What's a big piece of advice or a tip you can
just
give us?
Just look at it, smell it. If it smells corky, if it smells like there's a bit of cork tint inside, then try it and see how it tastes. And if it's bad, send the bottle back. I mean, be respectful about it, right?
Yeah.
Offer a glass to the waiter. Offer a glass. Hey, can you try? I mean, there's nothing wrong in offering a glass of wine to the waiter. I think it's and it's up to them to accept or not. If and to me, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they do it in Europe all the time. So, if it's bad, then just have them send the bottle back. But at least offer them to make a try it, and a good restaurant should try it, because I want them. And and it's happened. It's gonna happen that a case will be corked. I mean, it's something that's part of the business. It's part of the game, and we're going to take that box back. It's no questions asked, right? So we just want to make sure that at the end of the day, the customers.
This is fantastic.
You like the wine? Try it.
I think I like this one better.
Vince likes full body wines.
This is a nice full body wine.
Yeah.
I like this one better.
Yeah, you like full body wines. Yeah. Not that I know your palate better than you do, but.
I have to guess what flavor is in here. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna look like an idiot right now, but I want to say there was like a hint of vanilla in here. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Oh my!
I think it's very nice to you.
Oh, it feels good to be right.
But it's not overpowering.
No, it's not.
It's not like a California. It's not like a California. Cabernet. It's all vanilla.
Yeah, to me, there's a lot of dark fruits in here.
A lot of dark fruits.
So
that's
what you really get. That's the.
And this wine here, this lends itself really well with the typical dishes of Abruzzo.
Yeah.
A lot of lamb. We do a lot of lamb. Rostechili, which are the little Italian lamb skewers. This will go well with veal, with steaks, charcoal, barbecue. You were mentioning about the Nero d'Avola.
Yeah.
Well, I challenge you to try Montepulciano. I mean, this is something that really stands up to me and goes really well with pasta as well.
Yeah.
But it just goes it blends itself extremely well, partners with, especially with the lamb and the gaminess of the meat, you know. So this is one of my favorite wines. I mean, here we have a little assortment of this is truffles. Yeah, this is olives, and this is a vegetable. It's like it's just like an artichoke type of spread. So, you know, it's stuff that that's homemade, you know, and made with
love.
So if you have anybody, whether they're going into wine or food, like what keeps you going? Like, obviously you're starting this off, you want this to grow, you and your wife, you want this to grow. How do you what keeps you motivated every day to actually go through with this? Because I'm assuming it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but to tell you the truth, for me, I fall asleep with ideas. So when I go to bed, I'm always thinking about, you know, what's the next big thing, or it could be that, or it could be I want to try that recipe. I want to bring in something. I want to make something for the family that we haven't had in a long time. So I'll research it, and how do we do this, and how do we do that. You know, I watch a lot of shows on TV about Italy, but you know, the fact of the matter is just traveling. You know, traveling and trying, you know, getting immersed in the culture, right? So for me, that's pretty much what it is. That's what keeps me going. At the end of the day, we're trying to have a very sustainable organic growth company that has a beautiful portfolio of wines throughout the peninsula, of good value wines for the consumer, and something new like the Bianco di Mattoro or a nice 100% Sangiovese and the Montepulciano, this is very dear to my heart. This wine. I mean, I can't express to you how much. We're willing to work with this company and grow together and see what we can do and how we can impact the marketplace here in Quebec. So that's pretty much it, you know. And it's always about pairing, and then we have the holidays coming. So Easter's around the corner, so everyone's eating Il Zeppole di San Giuseppe and everyone, you know. There's always like my father-in-law would always say, you know, there's always like there's a cycle. I've been living a cycle my whole life, you know, like so. You know, as you know, because Montreal, we have really bad winters here. We've just went through probably one of the worst winters I've seen in a long time.
Especially
right?
snow-wise.
The amount of snow.
So for me for a time like and I, you know, because I was basically raised by, you know, my parents and my grandparents, and I had a lot of family and around me. For me, it was very important to, you know, to learn the traditions, right? So we made wine, right? We made tomatoes in September, then we made wine. Then it started getting cold. We're all in school. Then Christmas came. We're getting ready for Christmas. And then after Christmas, it was time to make the prosciutto in January. Then we started making sausages.
Forgot about the castagne in Christmas.
We get the castagne, but then we have the salami. Then we're ready to start planting seedlings for the garden.
Yeah.
And then so there's this whole, we have this like mini biodiverse type of culture in Quebec where all the Italians have been able to keep these traditions alive. So for me, that's what drives me. That's what drives Lydia Bastianich. That's what drives all these culinary, you know, masterminds in the U.S. or in Canada that are just keeping these traditions alive, right? So, and it's also learning how to make certain foods like that go well with the wines. Like for example, you know, panella from Sicily, which is you won't eat that unless you're Sicilian and you're in Palermo. But it's you know, it's like a chickpea fritter, right? And when we were in Florence, we were able to try some unique type of salami that was there, and I tried to mimic it actually a couple months ago. I made some salami in that fashion, you know, with a lot of fennel, and you know, so I go to my dad's butcher shop and we experiment, and I want to do this, and you know, so that's how he was, and I guess it's just in me. So for that, it's that's pretty much what moves me, you know, is and hoping that my children will continue with these traditions. I mean, right now they're very young.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm hoping that I can bring my daughter with me when I go buy my grapes.
It's okay, you just force her.
And you know what? It was funny.
Like a great time, just force the kids to do it anyways.
It was funny. That's the thing. When I was in Italy, I was talking to a lot of winemakers there, and I tell them my story because you know I'm the type of person I just tell you how, you know, whatever I feel at that moment, and I was telling them I make wine, you know, and they're like, really, you guys get grapes? And I'm like, yeah, we get it from California, and they were very interested in you guys go through a lot of trouble to make your own wine. And I was telling them my techniques, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly how we do it, but on a bigger scale. So it made me feel very proud that I was on the right track and doing it properly, and putting a bit of science behind it, right? Not just throwing a bunch of grapes in a container and making it ferment, but we actually, there's a lot of thought and analysis and planning behind it, making sure I'm picking the right grapes with the right bricks and sugar levels and stuff like that. So, it's basically that's my hobby. I don't have a hobby per se. Oh, I'm a car fanatic, or I like certain type of things. I watch shows. I can tell you, I don't watch any shows on TV, but I'll watch cooking stuff and cooking programs, or I'll be immersed in stuff when it comes to food. And when I go visit my father on Saturdays, I bring my kids. I'm like, wow, this guy's got the best job. He's just there working. It's very label intensive, but
he enjoys it.
He enjoys himself, and for him, it's not work because he's meeting new people every single day.
Yeah.
People come in and like, yeah, I want this, or I had that last week and it was so good, and it's like, how can you not enjoy what you do?
Yeah.
So
perfect.
Pretty much it.
So Vince, I think the honors as always.
We always end it with
retro.
a specific question to you. Before I get into that question, though, I have just a little funny question to ask Donny here. Donny, what's the longest sandwich you've ever made?
Longest sandwich? Why? How do you know about our long sandwiches? I think you've done a little research, right?
I have.
Yeah,
I think I've consumed a few too many myself.
You have, yeah. So you want to know the story about the 8-footer? Is that it?
Yes.
Well, the 8-foot sandwich is something that my father developed at his store when he was working for my uncle in NEG. They used to have a butcher's shop there called Marchigiani, and they were doing 8-foot submarines. And basically, it's just an 8-foot sandwich, and
shipped one piece.
It's one piece.
One piece.
Shipped in one piece on a wooden on a piece of like a wood pallet, right?
Wow.
Like a wood. Actually, it's fencing. It's a piece of wood that you would buy for your deck, so it's deck wood. But it just started off, and while I was working, a lot of people were asking me for this, and I just started catering Christmas parties for work, and it just every year it's like, okay, when are we doing this party? And it's like, okay, I have to have my order. I think this Christmas I catered something like 4 parties for the office, so it was pretty fun. But if you're ever interested and you guys want to do something, let me know. I can hook you guys up. I think my dad needs a week notice just so he can get the bread ordered, but other than that, it's rock and roll,
I think Matt could consume probably one himself.
Yeah.
On a heavy night.
Especially with wine, right?
I tell you, I love all the foods that they make, and my father and I are always talking about foods and how to make recipes and all that, and but I don't really eat a lot of it, I really try to minimize the consumption because it can get out of hand, right?
Especially soppressata every day.
Yeah, I make it, but like we'll do like I'll make like 60 a year, and then it's good. I'm good for a year, and I cut it for friends and family.
Yeah, because this you eat every day.
Absolutely.
So for the last question of tonight,
I
think it's fitting to ask this type of question. So we do everything in threes. As you know, 3 marketeers, I guess you could say, and so forth.
You're almost musketeers, huh?
I was gonna say musketeers.
Oh god.
So if you were stuck on an island, not the island of Montreal, we're talking about Barbados here or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Barbados, it's a good island.
That's what I'm saying, not the island of Montreal, a good island. You had 3 bottles of wine. 3 different bottles of wine you can bring with you. Only 3 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
Which would be those 3 bottles of wine?
I think it'd be the 3 bottles right in front of me, to be honest with you. Absolutely. Okay. I'm very happy with these bottles. I'm happy with the producers. They're very easy to work with. They're great people, nice families. You get to know them. It's an extension of you, right? So I'm going to partner. My wife and I are going to partner with people that we like and that are glass door policy. We know what's going on. They're passionate about their products. So for me, right now, the Crispai and the Retro, they're the ones we're really working on in partnering with them. So for me, it's these 3 bottles. Absolutely.
Okay. So where can people reach out to you now?
Listen,
if they want to buy either a few bottles or want to go to your website?
You guys, I'd like if everyone can reach us at askleyimports.com for our website, on Facebook, just Askley Imports. You can find us there. You'll have our entire product portfolio, and you can reach out to, there's contacts there. Nadia's name's there, my name's there. So ascoliimports.com, and away we go.
That's ASCOLI for those who are
Correct.
wondering.
Yeah, Ascoli is just to give you a bit of information about that name. That's where my dad's from, Ascoli Piceno. We had to come up with a name, and we're sometimes not the most creative, and we're like, you know what? I love that town. I've been there, and I'm like, Ascoli Imports, something rings. I like that, and you talk to a lot of people, like they don't get it the first time.
Yeah.
But when you say it to them and you correct them and you say it's Ascoli Imports because it's Ascoli Piceno, the city, then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So,
I'm sure your dad always loved it, so I'm sure
did.
you always agreed.
Absolutely.
So perfect.
Well, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Donny.
no problem. Cheers.
Pleasure. Cheers, Cheers, everyone.
I finished my wine, but
Cheers.
Yeah,
salud.
there's more. All right.
Thank you very much.
Take care.